Welcome back to another episode of Cyrus's Podcast. I am so stoked to have you guys back, as always, of course. But today I'm especially excited. I had another guest scheduled, and they canceled on me last minute, and that allowed me to move up one of my favorite people on this earth, Jack Hennings, my business partner, my mentor. He has taught me so much about this business, so much about life, and I'm so excited to have you on the podcast today, Jack.
Well, thank you, my friend. It's nice to hear that I'm second place today.
You know what? Second place, but first place in my heart.
I got that down. I don't mind being second place to Cyrus.
So Jack, I want to share your story because your story is one of the most interesting stories ever. And I want to share your story, and I want to go back to. I know so much about it, but let's go back to when did you sell your first property?
Oh my gosh, that was right after college. I'd been married a couple of years. Actually, I got married. Deborah, my wife, was a senior in college, and I had dropped out of college to do a political campaign. I was on Dick Nixon's staff in 1968, and then worked with Senator Earl Patton as his campaign manager for the state of Georgia. I was a young guy that didn't know any better, so I ran a statewide campaign for the United States Senate when I was still in college. And so I dropped out of college to run the campaign work with Nixon and with Senator Patton, and had to go back into college to finish my senior year while my wife, Deborah, was a senior as well. And I found a program. It was called FHA 235. I remember it was a federal program that was to subsidize low-income people. And I thought, well, I'm a college student. I'm low income. So I found out what the qualifications were. And at that time, I was going to school and selling life insurance and just, making a little bit of income as a college student, and qualified for the FHA 235 house. The neighborhood that these properties, it was an urban renewal kind of thing, and they had certain lots that the house could be built on. But I was able to find a lot in a very nice neighborhood that qualified for FHA 235. So I bought this lot. I used my credit card as the down payment.
How much was the house?
The house total was $16,000.
Oh my God!
Yeah, that was one of the more expensive properties that I bought back then. So I used the $500 on my credit card as the down payment. I used a line of credit in one county for the lot and another line of credit in another county to purchase the house. Back then, we didn't have computers to tell us what was being borrowed where. All they had was the county records, and I used that to my advantage.
Wow.
So I bought the lot, I bought the house with my $500 credit card. And that was my first purchase. It beat paying rent and living, on campus.
Yeah, exactly.
So I was a college student buying properties my senior year of college.
Okay, so I actually didn't know you were still in college, so that was interesting.
Yeah.
I also think that we skipped over some stuff over there that I'm going to go back to because this is very interesting. So you mentioned you were on Mr. Nixon's President Nixon's campaign.
Yes.
And how old were you?
21.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you were on President Nixon's campaign, and then after that you actually
Earl Patton. I was working with Nixon, and Earl Patton was a part of that campaign, coordinating. I lived in Georgia at that time, coordinating the campaign efforts in Georgia. And he asked me if I would come over from Nixon's campaign into his campaign. He needed somebody to coordinate what he was doing running for the United States Senate. I said, sure, I'll help you out. So I cleared it with the Nixon staff. They said, yeah, go help out Earl. And it was Earl Patton. And he was my hero and still is. He was a great man. I learned a lot from Earl. And it came time for me to go back into school and finish my senior year. And he said, Jack, I appreciate that. I said, well, Earl, I need to talk with whoever you're going to have as your state campaign manager to tell him what's going on in the office, how to handle the staff, and what appointments we have and everything that I was doing. He said, well, the guy I'm going to choose. I said, well, no, I don't. I probably know him, but I don't know who it is. He says, I want you to do it. And I said, no, Earl, I'm talking about your state campaign. I've been kind of a volunteer coordinator here in the office in Atlanta. He says, you've been running my state campaign all summer, Jack. I said, well, I have, but I'm not your campaign manager. He said, well, will you be my campaign manager? It's the only time in my life I said, I need to sleep on this.
Yeah.
And so I went home and I thought about it, and I went back. I said, Earl, I'm 21 years old. You're asking me to run a statewide campaign for the United States Senate. I've worked with the Nixon campaign, but I've never done anything of this magnitude. He said, Jack, you've been doing it all summer. Will you keep doing what you're doing? I said, yeah, let's go for it.
So I have I'm curious when he asked you this, and I might be having you dig back, to memories or whatnot. But when he asked you this, was there why did you think about it? Was it because you had self-doubt? Was it because you didn't think you could do it?
No, it was the magnitude of the request. I knew I could do it. There was never any doubt because I knew what it took to run the campaign, and I'd been doing it.
Yeah.
He just did not give me the title. So I knew it was a matter of just accepting the responsibility. That was a big responsibility. We're talking about a United States senatorial campaign.
Yeah.
So it was more of the magnitude of the responsibility than the ability to do the job.
So you felt that you could do the job, but you also knew that as soon as you accepted that you were going to be responsible to do the job.
I was the man. I remember going into a smaller community in southern Georgia, and I was there to do the preliminary work before the candidate came into town. And the local campaign committee was there, and I just introduced myself as Jack Hennings with the Patton campaign. They said, "Oh, are you with the youth committee?" Because I was 21 years old,
Yeah,
and a little blonde-headed kid. I said, "No, I'm not with the youth committee." He says, "Well, what job are you here for?" I said, "I'm the campaign manager." He says, "I don't understand. You're in charge of the youth?" I said, "No, sir. I am Senator Patton's campaign manager." So it was that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I had my whole, from age 19 to 30, I had to explain continually that I was not too young to do what I was doing.
I want to dive into that. I think that in the real estate industry, in business, and I dealt with it, and you helped me through it.
Right.
And I want to dive into when you show up somewhere and you are very successful in your craft, very successful where you're at, but people see it as you're too young to be there.
Right.
Like, how do you deal with that?
Tremendous self-confidence, and to be able to show right away that the job is being done 110%. So those that are in any industry, especially in their 20s, have to prove themselves quickly. And then it takes a pretty tough skin after that, because some people get intimidated because they say to themselves or out to other people, "Well, I didn't do that when I was 21 years old." So I have to be able to understand that that's where they're coming from, and that I am doing the job. I can do it better than most. And the work is getting done. It's getting done very efficiently. Plus, you have to dress a little older.
Yeah, someone told me, and that someone was you, was when you're on the top of the hill, you're an easier target. There's only one person up there, right? So my point being is, when I was going through it, we had to talk about, hey, like showing up dressing XYZ way, like showing, like there's no room for error,
right? Because
people already expect you to fail.
Easy target, and they want to prove that they're right. Their perception is what is correct.
Yeah. So you felt that being in that campaign.
Oh, not only in the campaign, but afterwards. After the campaign, I was appointed to a federal job as a state director. So I was the youngest federal state director in the United States at age 27. I was responsible for the Department of Agriculture for the whole state. And
Wow.
that was
So you're the state director of agriculture
right.
for Georgia.
Right. And that was at age 27. So, even at that point, there were people that would come to me and say, you're younger than my son. How in the hell are you doing this?
Yeah.
I said, well, your son is probably a very qualified person too. So, I had to have my answer.
Yeah.
But I did that at age 27.
So you're in politics. You've bought and sold multiple properties during this time.
Yeah. During the campaign, they don't last forever.
Yeah.
And I flipped my first property in 1973. At that point, they did not call it flipping at that point. I was just the guy in the community that would buy up the old houses in nice neighborhoods and sell them. So it was a very easy do for me. Yeah. My wife is an interior designer and she would do the interior. I had a contractor that worked for me. I did not use mortgages. I had a line of credit with several banks. Yeah. And I would use that line of credit because they loved me. At that point, I had a $60,000 line of credit. Well, the average salary was very good salary was $12,000 a year. Yeah. So that'd give you an idea. In today's market, that'd be over $1 million line of credit. So I had that line of credit. I would go buy these houses. Some of them wouldn't even have windows in them. And what I would do is pick out properties that were in good neighborhoods, solid neighborhoods. And the neighbors they'd love me. I was the guy that would fix up their neighborhood. So they would call me and say, Jack, this house is coming on the market. Will you take care of it? I said, sure. So I would buy the houses. I would fix them up. Always have a new bathroom, a new kitchen, and a nice dining room chandelier. That was my brand. And then Deborah would pick unique colors for the exterior of the house too. So
make it pop.
Make it pop. The curb appeal was a big thing, and I'd sell those houses pretty quickly.
So you're doing state senator campaigns. You're state director of agriculture. You're flipping properties, and then you start. You're selling properties. You're flipping them. Well, now you get into I want to. What next, right?
Actually, I had to take a stand for who I was. And I had to realize who I was as a future because I understood and I really believe that we live into our future. Most people think that the future just happens, but I don't believe that. I believe that if we take a stand, if we create a possibility of who we are in the future, then we can live into it. And it's got to be more than I'm going to be rich in the future.
Yeah.
What I took a stand for was the development of the community. I was disillusioned in politics throughout all of the Watergate scandal and all the stuff that was going on. Yeah. And I was there and I participated and saw what was going on inside the political arena. And I was very disillusioned. It was upsetting to me, but I knew that I wanted to make a difference. I knew I wanted to develop the community and be a part of that, but I didn't want to do it in politics. So I realized that what was calling me was a spiritual calling. So I went to seminary. I got 2 master's degrees, and one in psychology, one in theology, and became an entrepreneurial priest. Yeah. So,
sounds like an oxymoron to me.
Yeah. Somebody asked me, why did you go through the ordination? Why did you become a priest? And I said, simply put, power. And some people get freaked out when I say that, but power is a good thing if used appropriately. Yeah. So I had a different set of credentials other than I was a politician, statewide campaign manager. I was a member of the clergy. I was a member of the community that wanted to develop some good stuff. Yeah. And so I was in that arena. And that worked very well. I developed 3 retirement homes. I founded a church and started it, developed it, built it. So I was an entrepreneurial priest at that point.
That's amazing.
Which is a very unique situation.
Yeah.
But then again, I got called on to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's who I was. people wanting to develop something in that arena, develop something in the community. I had the advantage of I had the political connections as well to
Yeah.
go into that community and work with the director of development, the city manager, the mayor, the council, and get those projects through city. I also founded a school in the process, and we did that in 4 months. We from conception to opening doors was 4 months, and
That's amazing.
they said that was absolutely impossible to do. I said, well, no, I think God wants us to do that.
Yeah.
So they said, okay, let's go do that.
And that's a very interesting take, because you go so you go from politics to becoming a priest to
A developer.
developing these different places, and I want to make a very important point, because I think that a lot of people will skip over this or dismiss it, and I want to make sure that we understand like something that helped me in my journey as far as life goes, from playing professional soccer to becoming a real estate agent to now doing XYZ on the other side. We have I have 12 entities at this point of so many different spaces. So like something that helped me was realizing that there's no one telling you have to do this for the rest of your life.
There's no box.
There's no box.
Unless you put yourself in a box, and then you have to build that box yourself.
But you're the perfect example that there is no box, right? You come from, you went from one space to the next space to another space where people might have said, well, that doesn't really make sense.
They did say that.
And that's what I'm saying. So
but it made perfectly sense to me, Cyrus. I had my vision. I had my purpose. I lived into it, and I love the results.
Yeah.
You know, a prayer I say is, God, may this place be a better place when I die. I can say that. A lot of people cannot say, this will be a better place because of me when I die. I can say that because I've accomplished that. You know, if I were to walk out of here and die today, this will be a better place.
Yeah.
And that's what I lived into, and I'm having fun with it.
Yeah. And I think that's so inspiring for not just only me, but I think that the people that will be listening to this from now until forever, right, will look back on this and realize that. And that's so powerful. So I didn't want to skip over that. But then I want to dive a little bit more. I'm going to take us into a different route, and maybe not the route some people want to hear, but you battled cancer as well.
Well, some people call it battle, but I did not, because that was a paradigm that I didn't want to participate in. And I'm very, very, very much believe that if we choose our words carefully, they will serve us. If we don't choose our words carefully, they will work against us.
Yep.
So I never used the word battle. What I realized was I had some crazy cells that they call cancer, and I had chronic lymphocytic leukemia. So they were too many white blood cells in my body. My switch would not turn off. My body kept producing all these cancer cells. So that wasn't a battle. I just had to get my body to cooperate.
Yeah.
And I had to do that in a way. I had to employ the appropriate doctors. I took chemotherapy for 10 years, which was a challenge.
Yep.
But there again, I had to speak myself and live myself into that vision of total health. Some people, and it is a miracle, I had a lot of people praying for me. I started a school. There were 600 kids every morning that would say a prayer for me. It was just amazing. So what I did is I recruited a lot of really neat people to be a part of my healing.
Yeah.
And sometimes a certain oncologist would not be the one I wanted on my team. So I ended up firing about 3 oncologists. But I found the one that really, really worked, Dr. Leonard Sender. And he told me, he said, Jack, what you need, what will save you and cure you. I said, wait a minute, did you say the word cure? He said, yes, I do. He said, we don't like to use that word, but that's what it can do. It can cure you. And he said, it's a stem cell transplant. And this was in 1993, which was very early in the stem cell transplant.
Yeah, that's the year I'm born.
Yeah. So I said, let's go for it. And he said, let's do. So I received my brother's stem cells. It was a challenge because I had what was called graft versus host disease, which means that my new immune system was attacking my body. So it literally was destroying my body. So for a year and a half, they had to shut down my immune system. They call it the bubble boy. I had to be totally isolated for a year and a half. And it could only be with my wife, Deborah. She's the trooper in all this. But during that time, I thought, well, after I get cured from this cancer and get over this graft versus host disease, how am I going to keep on keeping on? They told me I didn't need to be back in the arena, or the public arena, being with kids and all that kind of thing, because of my immune system needed to get developed. So I thought, I'm going to go into residential real estate.
Yeah.
And that's, here we are.
And at that time, I know because of our history, but at that time you were selling millions of dollars of real estate.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
And
I was buying a lot of real estate.
And buying millions of dollars of real estate.
Yeah.
And this is when, we're in Southern California now, every home is $1 million, but this is not at that time. So
no, they're averaging about 400 to 450.
Yeah. And so you go through this, you do real estate, you crushed it, you did well, and then you retired.
Well, I planned to retire in 2013 with 100 properties. But then at that point, I thought California's economy is immune to anything that can happen. Well, that's where I was wrong.
A lot of people were wrong about that.
Yeah, I thought that the Pacific Rim, the Asian market, with all the people that wanted to buy in California, that there was no way that it would tank.
Yeah.
But then came 2008, 2007, 8, 9, and it did tank. I watched it. I knew when it was going to happen. Actually, at that time, my mortgage broker worked for me and one other person. So we were his client base.
Yeah.
Because I was doing that much business with him. And it crashed, I think it was April of that year. And he called me in February. He said, "No more loans, Jack." And I said, "You mean for my clients?" He said, "No, for you." I said, "What the hell?" Are you saying I cannot? Because what I was doing is leveraging properties, like everybody else was doing. I would get home equity lines and then go out and buy some more properties.
Yeah.
He said, "No more loans." And he said, "Sell." I said, "I've never heard that word before in my life.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sell in 2008. I'm going to sell in 2013 and then buy my home in the Caribbean and have a yacht in the Caribbean and one here."
Yeah.
He said, "Nope, sell." So we sold everything at that point. And it, as history will tell you, it tanked 2008, 2009. I was going to get back in the business after that. And then I put out the shingle and realized I was working for the mortgage company. I wasn't working for the client because they over regulated out of fear after the recession. And it was awful the way that the loans were being processed. And I would bring properties up to the day of escrow, and then the loan officer would call and say, "Nope, we're not going to do it."
Yeah.
For just little stuff. I mean, just stuff that would tear your heart out.
Yeah. And then you retired.
I retired.
So I'm going to catch everybody up here.
I did all right when I sold those properties.
Yeah.
And I went and bought a nice yacht.
Yeah, exactly.
And I said, "Deborah, we're just going to sit on the yacht from now on." And I was having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And this guy, Cyrus comes and sitting with me one day.
And so at the time you and I met, and I tell everybody the story and everybody trips out because they're like, "How did you meet Jack? You guys are totally different ages, different backgrounds, yada, yada, yada." And I say,
we have the same fun.
Exactly. And it was my ex dragged me to a Christmas party.
Yeah.
And
my
Deborah
wife,
took you to a Christmas party.
That I did not want to go to.
Exactly. And we were the only two guys there.
Well, they were playing this. Well, the ladies didn't think it was silly. This little swap game where you
swap the white elephant.
Yeah, where you swap all these ridiculous presents, and I end up with a box of cupcake recipes, and you got the butterfly brooch. And so we named me Cupcake and you Butterfly, and we were best of friends.
Exactly.
That's how Buttercake Properties got started.
And I was still playing soccer at the time, and we like the coolest thing is that before we even became business partners, you were a mentor of mine just in life in general, and I talk about this all the time as well. But you and we met, we had a good time. I think I left to Costa Rica or the Philippines or somewhere.
You were Costa Rica, I remember. I said, well, when you get back to California, he said, Jack, I'm going to be playing Costa Rica. I said, no, you're coming back to California, Cyrus, and we're going to get together.
Yeah, and we were...
I spoke that into
you. Yeah, you did. It was I think the next day or 2 days after I left. And then I came back and I called and we went on you had what? The sailboat.
Yeah.
And we went on the sailboat at that time. And then we just hung out, every other day at that point.
Yeah, it was really fun.
And then I got my car.
I was retired.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I was an athlete, so I'd train in the mornings and then I was done.
Well, you were a good crew too.
Yeah, and so we would hang out all the time, and then I got my car accident, and then we sat on the back of the boat, back of the yacht, sorry.
Yeah.
And when I looked at you and I said, hey, I think I'm going to get into real estate, you said, well, how do you think I paid for all this? And I looked at you like, what the heck? And because up until then, we really just were hanging out, talking, doing whatever. And then I was like, wait a second. And I said, well, I'm going to get into real estate on one condition. If you do it with me.
Yeah.
And you said no.
Well,
you said no.
I was having fun.
And then I think what struck you was you wanted a bigger yacht.
Well, I had a conversation with Deborah. It was actually a week before. And I said, Deborah, I want a bigger yacht. She said, you do not need a bigger yacht. I said, well, I want one with they call it the galley. I want one with a full galley and a dining area and a really bar in the main salon. The bar, rough life.
Well, and you wanted the grand piano on it.
Well, Deborah said she would live on it if I had a grand piano.
Yeah.
So, I'm throwing this at her. She said, you're not going to spend our residual income, our retirement income on a bigger yacht. And I said, well, I'll just go make more money. She said, get busy. So that was in the back of my head when you said this, because it was a week old. And I thought, wait a minute, I can get a bigger yacht.
Yeah.
And so I said, yeah, let's go into business.
And then the rest is history. And now we're here.
Here we are.
Now,
well, it's not just history, Cyrus. You grew the company, man.
Thank you.
I provided the soil and you grew the tree.
Thank you. I truly believe. I truly believe that. My mom always says. Everybody always is like, oh, you raised your boys so well, or your kids so well, or whatever. And my mom always says, look, like their dad planted the tree.
Right.
I just watered it.
Yeah.
And I truly think that, without the foundation that we built together, we wouldn't be able to grow what we've done.
We did it. We had a vision. I remember the day we sat down and wrote lids on the board, on the whiteboard. LIDS, loyalty, integrity, drive, and service. And that was like a prayer exercise.
Yep.
I mean, we were in the spirit of generosity when we did that. And that's why we put service at the end.
And I think when we're looking at, just for anybody that's listening, that's looking for a business partner, that's looking for someone to build with, like, I think the reason that you and I do so well together is because our core values are exactly the same.
Right.
We may not look the same. We may
I'm better looking.
We may not talk the same. We may not listen to the same music. I'm getting you into some hip hop.
I listen to the same music because I don't have any choice in it. It's always on.
But at the end of the day, our core values are the same, and that's what really creates a powerful partnership. I think.
Right.
Whether it's business, personal life, whatever it is, it's your core values are the same, then you can grow together.
True. And also, Cyrus, we carry that forward with our agents.
Yeah.
So that's that loyalty, integrity, drive, and service. The lids are what we hold out.
Yeah.
And that's the benchmark for our new agents.
100%. Yeah. We won't hire anybody unless they have those traits. So before we cut this podcast off, I want to ask you one question.
Okay.
You have one single piece of advice that you could give someone that's struggling with, they don't know what they want to do in their life, they don't know, they feel a pull from other people that are telling them to do one thing and not the other, what's your piece of advice?
Create a vision. Like I said to begin with, I articulate the vision, and with me, it was around building community and serving those people within the community. We do that with our real estate. It doesn't have to be real estate. It doesn't have to be that your vision is creating community and helping those in the community, but have a vision, have a statement that is your vision statement that you can live into. And that has to be something that excites you. When you wake up in the morning, you put your feet on the ground, and it has to drive you to appreciate that new day. So create that vision, be able to articulate it very clearly. And in that vision, include generosity. You have to have that as an element. Whatever your vision is, you got to come from generosity. So that's the service part of our lives. We got to give back to this world. And again, it's leave the world a better place. So that would be my sentence would be leave the world a better place.
That's amazing, Jack. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming on. And I'm excited to continue growth with you. And I'm excited to push this out because I think this is going to be a lot of value for people that are going to be listening to.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.